Back for the semifinals of the Armchair Football League. We got our fellow analyst, Scare Bears, on the other side to help me talk about these matchups. So, last week in the quarterfinals, we had Three-Pete, now changed his name to Dead, versus OG Care Bear. Now, we originally, Scare Bears, had Three-Pete is Dead to take the victory. So why don't you go ahead and just give us a brief talk about this upset?
So I think looking in the matchups, we thought that the running back group, obviously, Jake had the edge there. What we
Mm-hmm.
didn't account for was quite the underutilization of Bijan Robinson. He actually came in with negative points, and really that crazy outing by McCaffrey wasn't enough to pick up the slack between both. So that kind of led that to be just an average showing by the running back group. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but there was just consistency across the board of meeting the projections on OG Care Bear, and Jalen Hurts had a pretty good week last week. So I think that really was the edge, Jalen Hurts, and the fact that there really wasn't too much underproduction. You had McLaren, who actually had a very good week. He's typically kind of a little bit on the lower end in the teens for points, and actually had a very good week last week. So I would say that was probably an upset
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
matchup
definitely
there.
was. They were going punch for punch. The number 2 tight end knocks out the number 1 tight end. I mean, McLaurin, who was ranked number 40, almost overtakes Addison. So yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that killed him, I think, 14-point difference, was Bijan Robinson putting up negative points in a playoff
Yeah,
matchup.
yeah. If he would have made his projection, it would have been a very close. But I think he only a handful of touches, which is crazy. Is one of the better people on that team.
Right. All right, moving on is OG Care Bear dropping out of the playoffs. Will not carry the trophy for a third year in a row. Is three-peat is dead. All right, moving down on the brackets, we had Kyle's got a huge dong versus three-peat is dead. LOL. In another tightly contested matchup. This one honestly had me watching the Monday night game pretty closely. They were going punch for punch with their running backs, DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Walker. And I think originally you did say Three-Peat is dead. Didn't have to look at their fantasy lineup.
Yep, they went into the weekend with that real good outing from Devontae Adams and that Las Vegas defense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's safe to say though, if they didn't see that kind of production, especially, I would say the key to the victory there was probably the Raiders D putting up them 29 points.
Yeah, I think that was their highest output on defense in the last couple years, honestly. Um, but
Yeah, there's
just
a lot of lackluster performances actually. If you look through um, Mac Attack's lineup there was a lot of misprojections, a lot of red there, but same thing on the other side too. For Kyle's got a massive dong or huge dong, whatever it is.
Yep, yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I mean, the Cinderella story was almost kept alive, sneaking into the playoffs, and he is one and done. So, moving on to the semifinals, we have Team Allentown Dart Show, who's been awaiting the victor of Three-Peat is Dead and OG Care Bear. So, let's dive right into this matchup here. Here. Okay. So we have right now currently projected to win the Allentown Dart Show. He is on a massive streak of 10 wins. So what do you think? Do you think OG Care Bear can stop this win streak?
So looking at this matchup, I think there's two things to point out here. You have the Bills trying to continue their push to the playoffs, so I see them being able to put up quite the performance against the Chargers, although they might be a little upset with the way they performed last week against the Raiders. But I see the Bills coming out dominating that performance. And then the actually this is the first time this year that Philly's playing the Giants.
Hmm.
So I think Jalen Hurts continues the production that he put up last week, and I see that kind of being two performances there that are probably going to be pretty equal in terms of output. And then looking down through the matchup, I think you know there's going to be a lot of really close to their projection types of performances, given who the teams are playing. Um, I I for have a feeling though, I think OG Care Bear takes a victory this week.
Mm.
I'm seeing Joe Mixon's going up against Pittsburgh. He had a pretty terrible outing against them a few weeks back. DK Metcalf has really been up or down this year. I don't see him really putting up any good numbers. So I really do think that one of the keys too is Keenan Allen. I think Buffalo kind of steamrolls them again. He might not have the 15 points in him that they're projecting. So I'm going to stick with OG Care Bear here for the win, for the upset in the
Oh, so
semifinals.
so he picks him to lose last week, and now he jumps on the wagon and picks them to, you know, make it to the championship. I mean, OG Care Bear is an underdog this week, but you know what? I don't know, man. This is going to be a tight one because, Derrick Henry going up against Seattle. Seattle does not have a very good run defense. Just the Eagles just don't run it for some reason very much.
I think the problem this year with Derrick Henry is he has a good week, and then he will follow it up with a single digit week. Um, I think he didn't see much performance last week, but I think this point of the year, teams are really focusing him. That he's the playmaker on that team, and I
Mm-hmm.
think with uh, Will Levis not being quite the superstar that they could really focus him
Mm-hmm.
and really sell out on the run. So I think Seattle keeps Derrick Henry under wraps. I don't see him having a very productive week.
And don't forget too, now Will Levis, I think he's better than Tannehill, but Will Levis he exited the game late last week with like a sprained ankle, or I think it was.
Mm.
So his odds to play are pretty low, and Tannehill passing the ball, you're just going to stack the box probably. So, you're probably right. I think that gets negated.
So
But
it'll be an interesting matchup to
it
see for sure. We'll keep an eye on that. But
definitely
I
will.
I've got OG Care Bear taking out the win this week.
All right. Fair enough. All right, moving on. Okay, looking down the bracket, we have salary cap time versus three-peat is dead. LOL. Let's dive into this matchup. So, the team that had the bye week, salary cap time, is actually an underdog, but it is a very, very tight projection here. We have a projection of 124 to 119 in favor of three-peat is dead. LOL. All right, why don't you walk us through this matchup and your thoughts?
So I'm thinking Mahomes is probably going to be at his projection, probably over. I see some of that gap in the projection being made up there. One of the things that's really standing out to me this week is Three Pete is Dead has three wide receivers that are probably going to make their projection. So CD Lamb coming off of the loss to Buffalo, I think he is going to have a big week. Justin Jefferson being back in the lineup and starting to see some more snaps. I think he has another big week as well, especially being against Detroit. I think that's a division game. I think they're going to be slinging it. And then you're also looking at, like I said earlier, so you got Diggs. They're going up against Chargers this week, and I think Allen has a pretty good week, and that translates to Diggs having a pretty good week.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at this matchup here, I'm not seeing anything that's really standing out on salary cap time. So I'm going with Three Pete is Dead here for the win this week.
All right. This is definitely going to be a close one. I think they're going to be trading punches all weekend long. This game is definitely going to come down to Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you've got some Eagles on both sides. You got Swift on Three Pete is Dead, and then you've got AJ Brown on the other side of the matchup there. So
Mm-hmm.
with it being a division game, and I know that the Eagles have been slipping, I think this is the game they look to get back on track, especially at home against the Giants. I think there's obviously going to be a lot of energy there. So I think that's going to be another high scoring game this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if they want to overtake Dallas, they're definitely going to need to win. So they're
This
going to
is
be
true.
playing pissed off following 3 losses. 2 teams battling it out already for 5th place. That would be for the 7th overall pick in this upcoming draft. We have Kyle's got a huge dong versus 3-Pete is dead. I'll let you take this one away, Scare Bears.
All right. So looking here, I think actually, if you look at all these matchups, I do believe that this is going to be as close as it's being projected. I'm giving the edge, though, to three-peat is dead. I don't think we see that slip in performance or in Bijan Robinson like we did last week. I do notice that they have Jamar Chase in the lineup, who's projected to get 0 points. So that should be an easy swap with somebody on the bench to make up that difference. So I think I'm going to go with three-peat is dead this week for the win.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 3-Pete is dead, the projected 5th place winner, with 6th place going to Kyle's got a huge dong. There's no LOL at the end of that one. Moving on to the toilet bowl matchups. We'll run through these quickly here. We had Jay Foster on the bye. It's always bad when you have a bye in the toilet bowl, but I can't really say too much because so did I. So, the first matchup we have is rebuild mode versus scoliosis. Team Scoliosis absolutely smacked the hell out of rebuild mode. 158 to 116. It's tough to stop a tight end who scores 3 touchdowns, and he's a rookie, by the way. So Scoliosis will now take on the loser from Scumbags and Blumpkin Fairies. Blumpkin Fairies had their Blumpkin shits on Scumbags 120 to 88. So the Scumbags fall and they meet Cupcheck from the bye week, who's been waiting patiently to see who is going to take home the first overall draft pick. Rebuild mode will face off with Kane Gang. And we got to talk about the 7th place matchup, Blumpkin Fairies versus Scoliosis. Scare Bears, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so I think James Cook has another outstanding week, so I think he more than meets his projection. That brings the projection a little bit closer together between the two teams. But looking at especially Sam Laporta, I think that he has another good week this week. That Minnesota matchup, that's being a division matchup, I think a lot of energy. They are at home, or sorry, they are in Minnesota. So I see him getting another big week. I'm giving the edge though to Team Scoliosis this week. I just don't see enough on the Blumpkin Fairy side to make up that difference.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just look at the teams we got. 3 Buffalo Bills going up against 3 Detroit Lions. So that'll be interesting. Okay, moving on to our next matchup. We have Cupcheck versus the Scumbags. Let's dive into this one here. So, I mean, the loser moves on here. And if I'm being honest, after last week's showing by my quarterback, Jared Goff, throwing 5 touchdowns,
I wouldn't get used to it.
I'm hoping he can command me to a victory here. I mean, playing against Minnesota, who, I mean, let's be honest, they're middle of the pack. They're not that great. So I I'm hoping for at least 3. Hoping for at least 3. And it's not a grass field, too. He sucks on grass fields. I am coming to realize. You got anything to say about this one?
Uh, he's playing in a dome. I think he's comfortable playing in a dome, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So I think looking at it, Goff probably doesn't have quite the week he had last week, but I don't see him getting the single digits like he was the week before. Um, Looking further down the line, one thing that I think is going to probably make the team cup check here is a little upset is I don't think Austin Eckler has a decent week this week going against the Bills. They're really tightening up on defense, and if the game gets away from the Chargers a little bit, they'll be hitting the passing game a little bit more, and probably won't even be using him at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then going down the line, I think it's pretty fairly matched on both sides. The I think scumbags take it this week.
Yeah, I mean, if T. Higgins tees off, no pun intended, like he did last week with 2 touchdowns, that miraculous touchdown catch where he like twisted and leaned the
Yeah,
ball over the pylon. I mean, that was insane. And the combination of Tyreek Hill, who goes off every Sunday, Brees Hall can easily go off with all his catches. I mean, it's.
Tyreek's back too, I believe, right this week or no?
I think he
Is he
is.
questionable?
I think he is
His
back.
production could be down, but that could also be a shootout with Dallas. I think that's gonna be a good game.
Mm-hmm. Okay, moving on to our final toilet bowl matchup. We have Kane Gang. We have Kane Gang versus Rebuild Mode. All right, why don't you take this one, Scare Bear?
So pretty tight projections. Another tight week for another matchup. We have starting at the top. We got Fields going head to head against Prescott. I think Fields has a average day. He's a little bit underperformed last week against Cleveland, which is understandable. Arizona isn't too great against quarterbacks, so I think maybe he meets or just exceeds his projection into the 20s. But I still think that Miami game is going to be Dallas coming out trying to reestablish um, that winning attitude that they had heading into Buffalo,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Prescott has a big week. Um, Looking down the line, not really seeing a whole lot either way that could be a standout performance. So really, Prescott overperforming his projection kind of brings these closer together. So I'm flipping a coin, and I think I'm going to go with Kane Gang here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where my money is too this week. I mean, Kane Gang, he's got one of the top leaders in the bet books for MVP in Prescott. He might have taken a little dip after last week, but he's in the talks. Um, my favorite player, I would say, on rebuild mode is Jackson Smith and Jigba. Did you see that touchdown catch on Monday night to
I
win the
did not.
game?
Oh
Oh my
yes,
God.
yes, I did
Incredible.
see that one. Yep.
Incredible. He's got a future star right there. Yeah, but I mean everything else, nothing really catches my eye. So like you said, it might
I
might
think it's
be.
going to be a lot of. It's going to be close. I really think this is probably one of the closest matchups because looking through who's starting right now, there's no possible standout performances really sticking out to me this week,
Mhm.
and I think it's going to be right around their projections. Which, with the exception of Prescott, I think he can have Dak could have a good week this week.
All right, it looks like we're gonna give home field advantage to Kane Gang. Opening odds are -1.5. Thanks for joining me again, Scare Bears. I look forward to the matchups and talking and reviewing them next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and it's going to be interesting to see who the teams are that end up in the championship. So I'm excited.
Yes, it definitely will be. One team will hoist the trophy, and the other team will pack their bags and think about who they're going to draft first overall. But until next week, talk to you later, Scare Bears.